Welcome back to the Guitar Learning Show. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Bob. And today we want to talk about really an absolute beginner's guide to the electric guitar. You're thinking about picking up the guitar as a hobby, do it. Don't think about it, just do it. But you're a little nervous because you don't know much about guitars. You know a cool one when you see it, but you don't know a lot about them. And before you really don't want to walk into that guitar store without having a little bit of knowledge. And that's what we're going to try to give for you today.
Okay, so we have 5 different types of guitar and shapes represented here. And some of them can be attributed to one manufacturer originally, but then over time, as these different styles grew in popularity, other manufacturers would make similar types of guitars. So we're going to talk to you a little bit about the actual the guitars, the shapes, and we're going to identify all the different parts of the guitar so that when you do go to buy your first guitar, you'll have some knowledge to bring with you as to what these different things are. And hopefully it will help you to make decisions on things like what type of pickups, what body style, things like that. So
absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the first mass market electric guitar. This is not literally the first one. Kevin wouldn't let me touch it if it was. This is the Fender Telecaster, designed and released by Leo Fender in 1951. It was, as I said, the first mass market guitar. Had a couple different names. It started out the Broadcaster, and it turns out Gretsch had a drum kit called the Broadcaster. So it lost the Broadcaster name. It had no name for a little while, and then it became the Telecaster. The funny part is the reason it became the Telecaster was in the 50s, much like we went through an E series where everything was an E something and then it was an I something. Everything in the 50s was related to television. So it's that's the Fender Telecaster. So that was Leo's first guitar. And you want to talk about Leo's second guitar?
Well, this is my favorite body-shaped guitar. His second would be the Stratocaster. And he introduced the Stratocaster to people that were actually around in 1954. And so a couple of the differences in body styles between these two is the Telecaster is what's called a single cutaway guitar.
Right. This is what we're referring to as the cutaway, and this is where when you get into playing the wheedly parts up here.
And then the Stratocaster has what's called the double cutaway, so the single down here, so you can get to the upper part of the fretboard, and then this double cutaway part here. And for me personally, it just provides a little bit more of a balanced guitar for what I like to play.
Yep, and I'm definitely a Tele guy. Leo got it right the first time. I don't know why he kept going, but I guess
thank God he did.
Yeah, we're lucky he did.
I love my Strats.
So the third one we want to take a look at here today is this. This is not, so the original kind of single cut design was the Gibson Les Paul. First Gibson Les Paul was released in 1952. We don't have a Gibson Les Paul here today, so this is a similar style guitar. This happens to be a PRS SE, but the single cut style like that is, again, there's a single cutaway for here, 2 volumes, 2 tones, 2 pickups. We're going to go through pickups and all of that in a little bit, and a pickup selector up here. They're usually a mahogany body with a maple cap on top of the mahogany body, and either a mahogany or a maple neck.
And the mahogany is a fairly heavy wood.
Yeah.
Compared to, like, this is an Adler wood, and it's definitely a lighter guitar. And the single cutaway Les Paul style all have this wider part of the body, and for some players, they love it, or it could, if they're playing in their lap, this could be a little bit off balance for them, like it is for me.
Right. So for some folks, it tends to want to drop this way. And we're going to talk about balance and feel in a little bit here.
All right, what do I have? I have this. So this guitar is also a double cutaway. It's this horn style. It's this is an Epiphone, but they're also made by Gibson and some other companies out there. But this is an SG style guitar. And these were originally called Les Paul.
Mm-hmm. It was the replacement for the original Les Paul.
And then at some point, I think it was in the 60s, after a few years of marketing this as a Les Paul, they went back to building the single cutaway guitar, and then I guess they changed the name of this to the SG.
Yes, which actually just stands for solid guitar.
It's solid. So, okay. That's that.
And the last major style we want to look at is this. This is called a semi-hollow. This is actually an Epiphone 339, but it's very similar to the Gibson 335, which was released in the 50s. What makes this guitar a little different is obviously it's a bigger body style, but it is a semi-hollow guitar. And by that we mean that there is a solid block going down the middle, but you can see these called F-holes here. These chambers are hollow. And it tends to give it a much more resonant sound and a little bit of a warmer sound. And personally, the semi-hollow is probably my second favorite style of guitar. So let's walk through kind of the parts of the guitar. We'll start at one end, right? So this is the headstock. We're going to consider the headstock kind of going up to about here. So the headstock does a number of things. First off, obviously, it's where your tuning pegs are. The strings go up and into the tuning pegs, and it's literally how you tune the guitar. You can have standard tuners, or this is what's called a locking tuner. A locking tuner makes string changes easier. It doesn't keep the guitar. There's a common misconception. People say you have to have locking tuners for your guitar to stay in tune. That's really not the case. As long as your tuners aren't broken, regular tuners will stay in tune. This just makes string changes a lot easier. The other things you will see on here sometimes is this called the string tree. The string tree is used usually on the longest strings, and it's used to make sure that the angle, this is called the nut, and you need to have a good angle after the nut. So you can kind of see here, might be hard to see on camera, but the strings angle downward, and the string tree helps keep the proper angle. The nut is, in terms of playing the guitar, the string starts here and ends here. Yeah, it continues on, but this doesn't affect how the guitar sounds. The nut guides the string. It's the end point of the string vibration. It guides the string to the tuners, and the nut is a big part of helping the guitar stay in tune. You want to talk about the neck?
Sure, why not? So the neck of the guitar is essentially from about where the nut is, but the neck encompasses the front and the back, and it goes from the bottom of the headstock to the body of the guitar down here, and it attaches to the body of the guitar. So the back of the neck, it could be glossy, it could be satin. Ideally, it's good to have a neck back that you can move your fingers up and down pretty fast without them getting stuck. Okay, but the front of the guitar, of course, is where you're making your music. So this is called the fretboard or the fingerboard, and that can either be, on this guitar, this is all solid maple. So the entire neck and the entire fingerboard is all maple. On that Telecaster, the actual neck, the back of it, that is maple.
Right.
And then the front, the fingerboard, is a separate wood, and that's called rosewood. And fingerboards can be made out of many different things. Some are made of ebony, some are made of rosewood. This one, of course, is maple. There's Pau Faro, there's Indian laurel, and there's quite a few other woods out there. So that's the wood part. So you have the fingerboard separated by fret wires, and that's these metal things that go across the fret like this. The fret is essentially each section of between the fret wires. And of course, that is where you finger the notes. And of course, the further you go up the fingerboard, the higher the pitch of your notes. So you have the fret wires. Then you also have fret markers on the side, so it's easier for you to see when you're playing your guitar. And then, of course, you can see you have the fret marker inlays here. So that's 3, 5, 7, 9, and then this double one is 12, and then 15, 17, 19, and 21. And then this is 22, which has no marker. So this is a 22 fret guitar.
So you'll often see 21s, 22s, and 24s.
So I think that's all I got on that.
Okay. Now, how does the guitar make any noise, right? So you can, I mean, if you pick the strings, you can hear something, but that's not going to inspire anybody when you're on stage. So what is it? What turns this into something your amplifier can play? And it's these are called the pickups. Now, the Telecaster has 2 pickups. The Stratocaster has 3. What the pickups do is they are magnets surrounded by literally thousands of coils of very thin wire. And when you take something like a metal string and it vibrates in that magnetic field, it creates a tiny bit of current. And that's what your amplifier picks up and turns into sound. So there's usually...
Hence the name pickup.
Yeah, there you go. So these are what's called single coil pickups, which means there's one, what's called a bobbin with magnets inside and the wires. Single coils tend to be a clearer sound. You get some very, very clean, crisp tones from single coils. They can have a tendency to have a little bit of hum to them. And that's because they're picking up the 60 cycle frequencies going through the air from lights, appliances, and things like that. So single coils, these are actually what's called noiseless single coils, but they can have a little bit of hum to them. I'll show you, we'll look at a humbucker in a second, but the you choose the type of sound you want from the guitar with the pickup selector. So that gives you single or combinations of pickups. So this is a 3-way switch, which gives you either the bridge, the neck, or the 2 combined. The Stratocaster has a 5-way switch with some different options. And then this guitar has 1 volume and 1 tone control that runs on both pickups. The SG, these wider pickups are called humbuckers. They actually have 2 coils in them that are wired opposite of each other. The big benefit there is that they get rid of that hum, which is why they buck the hum, which is why they're humbuckers. But they also have a thicker, kind of fatter sound. They're much more, they're much more distortion friendly. You can certainly
it's easier to create that crunchy tone with the guitar.
Right. The SG, the Les Paul style, they have 2 volumes and 2 tones, and then a 3-way pickup selector switch. So what are some of the things that we should look at when you're looking for your first guitar? So I'm just going to come out and say, you got to like the way it looks. I mean, yeah, there's some people who will go out and buy a car, for example, and not give any concern about the way it looks. It just has all the specs they're looking for. But that's certainly not me. And guitars, you have to be inspired. You have to want to pick it up. So it should be a great looking guitar, or a guitar that inspires you. Maybe it's similar to one your Guitar Hero plays. Maybe you love the color. Maybe you like the way, just the overall vibe. But it has to be something that makes you want to pick it up and play it. Because if you buy it just on the specs, it might not inspire you.
Yeah, and along with that, the very first thing I would completely agree with Bob is you do have to look at it and go, wow, that is a really nice looking guitar, or cool, or whatever words you want to use that make you, really like that guitar. But then you've got to take that guitar and you have to bond with it in some ways when you play it. It has to be comfortable for you to play. You have to be able to, get your fingers to fret chords, to play notes. and it has to feel balanced. Maybe it needs to be a lighter guitar. Maybe you prefer a really heavy guitar. If you plan on standing up and playing a lot, then yeah, it's hard to say. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
So, but one thing it's important is to pick out your guitar and sit down, stand, whatever it is you want to do, and play it. And not only so you can hear how it sounds, but so you can feel it. And you know, if you take every single one of these guitars that we have shown you, they will all feel differently in your hands when you play it. Absolutely. And you'll like one better than the other, as far as the way it plays. And the truth is, because these are electric guitars and we can buy many different configurations of pickups, like you can get a Telecaster that has humbuckers instead of single coils. So if you really like the way that Telecaster feels on you and you enjoy playing it, but I don't really love the single coil pickups. I like a fuller sound. Yep. Well, there's plenty of options, is my point. Yep. So I think it's important that you really like how it looks, and you like how it feels to your hands, if you're going to be sitting, that it's balanced in your lap, that you can access the fretboard well and you can strum it.
So. And since we're talking about absolute beginners, when you go into the guitar store, you're looking at it and you don't know how to play, right? You don't know how to fret notes. You might not know how to make chords, but try out several different guitars. Put your hands around the neck. Just see how it feels. Run your hand up and down the back. Is it smooth? Is it sticky? Because trust me, when you're playing, especially when you reach the point where you're playing with other people and stuff, your hands are going to get sweaty, and if it's sticky now, it's going to get rough. Make sure it doesn't have a lot, no sharp edges on the frets. You can do all of that without really being able to play and get a feel for it.
Absolutely.
Especially if you try several. Yes, if you walk in and you see the most amazing guitar on the wall and it's calling your name, try it out. If you're worried about somebody else walking away with it, keep it next to you while you try some other ones. But try feeling a couple different necks. You might grab one and you'll just know how it feels. You'll start to know after you've tried a few what feels right and what doesn't to you.
It honestly may sound a little crazy and a little counterintuitive, just my opinion. It may be better to not really look at them initially looking for something that you like, but grab a few different body styles and sit down with them and go, wow, I like the Telecaster body style, or I like that Les Paul type body style. And then look at the guitars. Once you've determined this is a pretty comfortable guitar for me, a good shape for me, then look at the guitars based upon, okay, what do I like? What appeals to me?
Absolutely. Check out how it weighs. It doesn't seem like there would be a huge difference between a 7-pound guitar and a 10-pound guitar when you just think about it, because, who has trouble picking up 3 pounds? But if you end up playing for an hour standing up with a guitar strapped around your neck, you're going to notice the difference. So some people, myself included, like light guitars, but that may not be you, but it's definitely something to keep in mind.
So I've talked a little bit about balance of guitars. That's a big sticking point with me when it comes to buying, playing, what have you. I've owned a few Gibson Les Pauls, and I've actually, they've sat on my wall almost never being played, because I just don't like the balance of the Les Paul in my lap. It's kind of a Les Paul style is kind of it's big in that body. So, and I confess, I do play most of the time sitting down. I play in a band, so I also practice standing up, but I do play a lot sitting down. So this having a big body tends to kind of go up like this on me, and it's just not perfect. And I'm a stickler for something. So P.S. Someday this guitar is going to go to my daughter Stephanie, because she loves it.
Yeah. But when you look at balance too, one of the things is, put it in your lap. And, for me, now, not everybody likes the balance of a Telecaster, but for me, it's pretty much perfect. And I can literally sit here with my hands off the guitar, and it stays exactly where I have it. So,
I like the balance of a Telecaster. I mean, I enjoy playing the Telecaster as much as I enjoy playing the Strats. They're great. They're great guitars. So then there's the SG type of guitar. And if you hold it in your lap and you kind of let it go, the neck's going to go down. It's called neck dive. And essentially, this is just, and you can see it here, this is a very thin, very light bodied guitar. It's not quite as big, even as the Telecaster. The Telecaster is a little bit larger body guitar, and it's definitely thicker. So this is a thin guitar, and the neck, it kind of, if you see where the fretboard is, this neck kind of goes out further from the body than this Telecaster. This Telecaster, the neck goes a little bit further in, the fingerboard goes a little further into the body. And so this ends up having that neck dive. Now, if you want to play standing up and you want a light guitar, this is the guitar. This is very light and very comfortable.
The SG is a very light guitar, and especially if you're playing standing up, things like neck dive can be helped with like the widest padded strap you can get. Stuff like that will help. Things like neck dive, it will help deal with a heavy guitar. But it's definitely something that to keep in mind. Okay, so now we'd like to walk through some tips, just some general tips for kind of getting the most out of that first guitar purchase. And the first one is while you're still in the store. We talked about getting the feel for the guitar and everything, but you might not know how it's going to sound, and you are not going to want to plug in when you don't know how to play. So you can always ask the clerk in the store to demo the guitar for you. If you have one that you're seriously considering, but you want to hear how it sounds, ask the clerk to demo it for you. In any good guitar store, they should definitely be willing to do that.
So another tip is always tune your guitar before you're going to play it, always. Because even a guitar just sitting around can become a little bit detuned, and you don't want your ears to get used to hearing the wrong sounds. Your brain, as it learns the notes and understands the notes, it will associate, if your guitar is not tuned, it will associate the wrong sound with that note, and that will definitely hinder your progress as a guitar player. So this is just a little clip-on vibrational tuner, and you can get these at any guitar store. You can get these on Amazon. You can get them anywhere. And they just clip onto your guitar, and you play the string, and it tells you, let's see if you can see that. My E string's a little bit out of tune, apparently.
But yeah, definitely tune every time you pick up your guitar.
Every time. It's very important to do that.
So the third thing to seriously consider is get what's called a setup. Now, what's a setup? A setup is where a pro guitar tech has gone through your guitar and done things like adjust the height of the pickups so you get the best sound, adjust the bridge saddles, these are called the saddles, for what's called intonation. And intonation is simply how it stays in tune when you're playing up here. The tuner will get the guitar in tune for overall, but if the guitar intonation is not right, when you start getting up here, it'll go out of tune. So they adjust all of that. They also adjust your string height. Now that can be important for a couple of things. One is comfort, right? If you're pressing down further, it's just harder to press down, more pressure. The other thing is that it is possible to have your guitar strings up so high that when you press them down, they go out of tune because you've changed the distance on the guitar string. They'll actually go a little, what's called sharp on you. So a setup, depending on the guitar tech, it could cost you a little bit, but it's going to make a huge difference between in how the guitar plays, how it feels. We both get setups on all of our guitars when we get them because it makes that much of a difference.
I've done one or two of my own setups, but it's never quite as good as our guitar tech. So
you can certainly learn, and there's all sorts of videos online to show you how to do it, and they will get you close. If you don't want to, let me put it to you this way: if you don't want to spend the money, or you don't have the money to spend on a setup, definitely watch those videos and do what you can. A few very cheap tools bought on Amazon can get you 80% of the way there, and it'll make a big difference into how your guitar plays.
Yeah, and it's like anything. If you decide to do your own setups, the more you do, the better you get at it.
Absolutely.
So the last thing we want to leave you with is when you get that guitar, and let's say you have a case or a gig bag or whatever it might be, and the tendency when you first start playing is to bring it home and play it for a little bit, and then when you're done practicing for that day, is put it back into the case and put it somewhere safe, like in the corner or in the closet or whatever. I would highly recommend that you always leave your guitar out. Either buy a guitar stand to sit it on, or if you have kids or animals that you're worried about, maybe them knocking into it, knocking it over, you can always get some kind of a small single stand to put on your wall, and you can hang your guitar on the wall. But the reason you want to leave your guitar out is a guitar that you are reminded of is a guitar that will get played. And I know this from experience. When I first started playing, I didn't have my guitars on the wall. I didn't have a dedicated space. I would practice in my master bedroom of my house. And I had a small practice amp, so that was good. But when I practiced, I would take the guitar out, I'd practice, and then I'd put the guitar in the case and put it away. And you know what? After a while, I realized that I wasn't practicing as much as I would like. And eventually, I set up another room in my house with the amp and with my guitar. I had a stand, I had a floor stand, and I played a lot more when I did that because my guitar was out and it was there, and I had a dedicated place for it, which you can't always have that, but even if it was my bedroom, it still would have worked out. So highly, highly recommend leave your guitar out.
Absolutely. I mean, it's
wait a minute. One more thing I highly recommend. Please like and subscribe.
That is actually one of the keys to become a proficient guitarist. But no, I have to agree with you completely on leaving the guitar out. You want to eliminate any barriers that you have between you and practice. And these aren't cheap, right? So we tend to want to keep them protected. We tend to want to keep them put away and nothing happened to them. But you can, for $20, you can get a wall hanger and keep it out of the reach of pets and kids. And you just want to eliminate all those barriers. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us today. As Kevin mentioned, definitely like and subscribe. Click the bell so you know when we have new videos come out. We appreciate your time, and we will see you in the next video.